We've all seen it. The messy social media messages, the public tea spilling, and the absolute embarrassment of finding out that your life is a lie through a Facebook post or an Instagram message that your spouse thought was hidden. What if it didn't have to be like that, though? What if you could find out before their affair got too deep? Statistics show that over 20% of marriages deal with infidelity, and most affairs last for years because they thrive in the dark. It's time to turn the lights on. Verified.com is the world's first searchable relationship registry. It's not just an app, it's a digital boundary for your marriage. When you register your spouse on Verified, you are claiming your relationship on a global scale, whether you're talking, you're dating, or you're married. If another man or woman is being told your spouse is single or divorced and they search for your spouse on the registry, they find you instead. Now, here's the game changer. Verified allows you to speak one-on-one and directly with that other person. No gaslighting from your spouse. No he said, she said. No, oh my God, you went through my phone. How could you betray my trust like that? And zero social media drama. Just the truth, person to person, before things go too far. Don't wait for that gut feeling to become a nightmare. Because even if you think your spouse would never, there's an even better chance that you just never know. Register your spouse today using the link in the show notes and lock in your legacy to protect your peace. Marriage isn't supposed to feel like roommates, but it doesn't have to feel like a war either. Hi, I'm Kameran Alareqi, certified marriage coach and a relationship expert. Every week on Married and Connected, I bring you real talk, hard truths, and practical tools you can start using right away. Whether you've been married 2 years or 42, this is where you'll find hope, encouragement, and steps that actually work. So let's make your marriage feel good again, starting right now. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Married and Connected podcast. Today we are diving into a conversation I think is going to hit home for a lot of you. If you're a leader, an entrepreneur, or a professional who's ever felt like you are carrying the weight of the world and wondering if maybe, we're in that space where God is testing you or maybe God is telling you, nope, this isn't your jam. And you're also trying to fake it until you make it. This episode is exactly what you need. Our guest today has spent nearly a decade in the manufacturing world and another decade leading nonprofit organizations. So through all of that experience, he noticed a very sobering trend that most leaders aren't actually thriving. They're just surviving. And the constant hustle culture that comes with, especially being an American, it comes with a massive cost of exhaustion, frustration, and a very hollow success. But he believes there is much better and a healthier way to lead. And that is what we are going to get into today. He's an author, a seasoned coach, and the co-author of the book, Live Fully, Lead Authentically. He is incredibly passionate about helping professionals move past their performance and into the true wholeness through self-awareness and reflection and real authenticity, which is why I love to have him on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Kurt. I'm so excited to have you.
Hey, Cameron. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay. Decade in the manufacturing world, decade in this area where you're finding out, like, you're leading nonprofit organizations and realizing there's got to be more, right? How did that happen, and kind of how did that lead you to here?
Yep. So, like 3 hours. Is that cool? I mean, to tell that story.
I would love it. Except I have to go get my preschooler.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So I was pastoring churches in that nonprofit time. I was leading congregations, and I don't know if you remember 2020, but it was wild.
A little bit.
There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
So I actually I was on pastoral staff at a church that was launching a second campus on January 1st of 2020. Which, looking back, is like the perfect time.
Yeah.
So what happened was, with a pandemic, with all the cultural upheaval, there was some denominational upheaval that was happening. I had to shift into the mode where I was coaching my volunteer leaders how to manage their stuff so that they could lead well.
Yeah.
There was just so much going on. So what I realized, like, I don't want to go back to that for anything. Those were the hardest years of my entire career. And I realized that I loved doing that work with volunteer leaders. Like, to say, Why are you anxious? What do you need? How do you navigate anxiety? How do you show up the way you want to? And then what happened as we got further away from pandemic and all the kind of cultural upheaval stuff, uh, I was getting to coach less because the culture we were building was taking hold. The leaders were coaching each other. The level of health was just going up, and I was getting to coach less. So there was something in me that needed to keep doing that work with leaders, and the organization that I was working for needed me to be an organizational leader. And I got to tell you, Cameron, that's just not. That's not for me.
Not your jam.
Not my jam, and I knew it. So over the course of about 18 months, there was this sort of process to kind of figure out, like, hey, we're at a crossroads here. Am I going to keep going and kind of lean into a style of leadership that didn't seem to fit real well? Or am I going to kind of take this leap and start a coaching practice? And here we are. We started a coaching practice, myself and a good friend of mine, and haven't looked back.
Love it. Love it. I was a kindergarten teacher at that point, coaching time. And, you know, there were two things that kind of happened. There was, if a plexiglass divider hit my kindergartners in the forehead one more time, or if I had a mom at the time that was like, hi, my son's birthday party is on Friday. If you could go pick up cupcakes and decorations and create a party for him in the classroom, I'll just Venmo you some money. And I was like, I called my husband at the time. I was like, I'm going to end up in a jail cell somewhere where, like, this is just no. And he was like, hey. So I busted my butt and went full-time coaching. Like,
yeah,
that.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. You know, when you're telling kids for kindergarten and you're like, they need to be 6 feet apart. And I'm like, they're picking each other's nose. Come on. Like, come on. You just know. You just know at that point. I feel like God puts those moments in your life where he's like, listen, you're good at this. I've given you a gift, but this isn't like the gift. Move along. So
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that you recognize, like, this is not it. So what is your jam now? So what do you coach on and how do you help people?
Yep. So our coaching philosophy is kind of based on the idea that that there's a lot of things that we could help people do. Like, there's a lot of, like, tactical, here's what leaders do. We actually think that the work to be done before that is to say, who do you want to be? Right? Who are you? Who do you want to be? How are you going to navigate those moments when you get triggered or anxious? How are you going to show up in hard conversations? And, like, what are those interior things or those experiences in your past that are going to make you, like, withdraw or lash out when you don't want to? So we focus on that sort of self-awareness work to say, like, what's true, what's so, and do you want that to be so? Do you want to take a different route? So we focus a lot on self-awareness and growing that so that we can choose a different way to be and lead.
That's huge. I love this because in doing what I do and helping couples, this self-awareness piece is a lot of times what's missing. Nobody really knows who they are and what their purpose is or why they're doing the things that they're doing. It's just, well, this is the way my dad did it. This is the way my mom did it. This is what I'm, and sometimes that brings so much shame and guilt of I don't want to do this. I don't want to spank my kids. I don't want to, be in this industry. I don't want to take over the family business, but I feel like I have to because it's all I know. It's all I've known for my entire life, and I don't know anything different. And so, that self-awareness piece, or even the question that you asked, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
How often do you find that people, like, they can't answer that question because they haven't really thought about it?
All the time. I mean, I'd be curious to hear how you would answer that question too, but we hear it all the time, and not because people are bad, right? But I think because, I mean, just like what you said about, this is what my dad did, this is what my mom did. We learn, like, we have a first formation. All of us are formed. There's not a one of us that don't have a formation. The question is who and how are we being formed, right? So I think we just kind of default to these normal ways of being that we've seen over our first formation, and we just see them as normal. And it's hard to kind of get out of that to say, oh, there might be a different way. We find most people don't know how to answer it just because they have no, I want to say this gently, they have no imagination that it could be a different way. And then we just get stuck in the way that we think is normative and normal. Yeah. I mean, how would you answer? Like, do you run into this a lot where people say, I don't even know how to answer that?
Yeah, all the time. And a lot of times it's one couple comes to mind right now where I'm working with them and he's a pilot and I'm like, but do you feel like this is what you want to do? And he's like, I don't know. I like it. But
Yeah.
I think if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I think I would have been perfect for you to work with because I was at that point where I was a teacher. I was good
Mm,
at it, knew that that
yeah.
wasn't my calling, knew that that was, again, it was a gift, but it wasn't the gift. Today, I would answer that as I want to be one of the leading coaches that is very sought after for people to know that when they come to me, they are going to authentically get tools to help them learn healthy, Christ centered marriages that is going to lead to deeper, stronger connections. I want to be an incredible wife and I want to be an incredible mother and raise these boys to A, see an example of a marriage that they want to emulate. And then also that they learn how to be strong, masculine figures in the world that are contributing to society and making a positive impact on the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that so much.
But that's taken me thousands
Yeah.
of dollars of coaching and 10 years to get
Yeah.
there, to figure out
Yeah.
that this is how I want to be and this is who I want to be. And
Yeah.
not all of that
Yeah.
was what was emulated when I was growing up. But
Yeah, and I think certainly, I mean, you hit it on the head a little bit. Like the climate in which we get to ask these questions to people now is so different. I mean,
yep,
even just generationally, like the generation ahead of us, I gather we're similar. We're similar age, probably, Cameron. But like the generation older than us, like would never have had these conversations, and still probably don't understand the value of the conversations. So I do think we do have the advantage of like we're in a climate where asking these questions feels more acceptable, more appropriate, more fruitful, all the things, right?
for sure. And it's interesting. It's also a very difficult place to be in because when I'm having these conversations with like my parents, for example, there's just a mindset there that is
Yeah.
wildly different than what it
Yeah.
is for our generation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, I look at my folks' generation and the way we thought about loyalty and work and the way we thought about retirement, and it's just so different. So, I don't know what I would feel if I was 70 years old right now trying to figure out like my life's gone this way. I mean, it's just so different for us. It's been different for us. I rejoice, I guess, that that's different for my kids, and not that any of that was bad. Like I don't want to throw shade at those older generations, but I'm hopeful for my kids to be able to try some things on earlier in life than I got to try things on, right?
sure, for sure. What do you feel like is the most challenging thing when you're working with people like that they're encountering?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think broadly I would say shame.
Dig into
People
that. I see that too.
yeah. Yeah, I think people in general feel like they're not good enough for whatever role they have. And I mean, that gets into some of the imposter syndrome stuff. I think if you boil all that down, it's rooted in fear.
Hmm.
But I think that sort of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Somebody's going to find out that I don't belong. Yeah, that imposter syndrome, shame kind of thing is the most common thing that we deal with. I mean, we work with some groups, and like group dynamics are so much different than one-on-one dynamics.
For sure.
Uh, we work with a lot of groups that find themselves like unable to communicate well, unable to trust each other, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think I'd probably say imposter syndrome and shame are the most common. I think it's a human experience, so it seems right that most humans come with that sort of stuff.
I think that's something that I find as well when I'm working with couples, that shame is a really big one, especially for men. the trauma-induced self-beliefs that I'm not good enough, I'm gonna get in trouble, I have to hide this because you're gonna find me out, and then you're not gonna love me, and you're gonna leave, you're gonna abandon me, that kind of thing. Um, that's what I work with couples with, is trying to overcome those self-beliefs, but man, it's really hard because that's also why divorce is created. Divorce rates now are 58%, so almost
That's
60%.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
wild. It's
Yeah.
wild, and it's
Yeah.
all completely preventable, fixable, all of it.
Uh, I think that's why I was so like intrigued when I saw the work you do is this overlap. Like I think I'm not coaching couples. I'm grateful for people like you that do, but I think there is such an overlap in some of this like leadership, shame and imposter syndrome and the way we interact as couples. I think there's such an overlap that always intrigues me for sure.
There is, for sure. Talk about that leadership, because I think
Hmm.
that's where we struggle. Before we started recording, you were talking about like the kind of the dynamics and the roles between you and your wife.
Yeah.
And something that I find a lot is that, biblically speaking, Adam was created before Eve, then like the man is the leader of the home. That's what's missing, is that because men are not leading, women are feeling like they have to lead. And so even if the man is more of like, hey, let's talk about our feelings, and the woman is like, no, I'm going to go move this dresser by myself or whatever,
Yeah.
that's fine. But the man, like, there still has to be leadership in the home. So how do you kind of navigate and get people on board with that?
Yeah. So for listeners, yeah, in my house, my wife is like the tough guy. She's the snake killer in the yard. Like just today, you know what she did? She dug hair out of the drain in the bathroom because like I'm gonna gag if I have to reach in and get that out of the drain. But I like the joke is at the church we go to, they have men's and women's events, and like we are constantly wanting to go to the other one's events. Like, the men do this thing where they shoot skeet and grill steaks, and I'm like, I don't really want to shoot anything and grill anything. My wife's like, yes, I want to do that. While the women are doing like charcuterie boards and talking, and I'm like, yes, that sounds amazing. So yeah, I think all that to say, I don't know. I'm probably a little more egalitarian than what you just described. I'm probably a little more under the mindset that I say we're probably going to figure out how to do that together. I also, yeah, I don't know what role those sort of gender norms play in any of these leadership. Like, I don't know. Like, does it matter that my wife wants to kill snakes and
No,
do the handiwork? I don't think it does. Um,
I think it's a
yeah,
balance. I think
yeah,
I think the balance is what matters the most. But I do think that a household needs a leader. That, like, if you can't agree on something, one person's going to take the lead on this and say, I'm going to do the research on this. I'm going to take this off of your plate. And also, I think psychologically speaking, the need to provide and protect comes more naturally to a man, versus the woman is more nurturing and all of that, just because of that motherly role.
I don't know, Cameron, if this is age in me or if this like what this is. I think the older I get, I'm sure about less things. Right. I
Mm,
find myself like more curious and less certain. Like obviously, like there is truth and there are things that are black and white. I think as I get older, I feel like I have less of those things that I feel like certain about. And I think this sort of like what does it look like to lead in the
mhm,
house? I think that's one of those where I feel less and less certain because like life stages. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and like we're navigating things like social media and driver's license
same.
and braces, like
Yeah.
braces, like what the
Yeah.
heck are we doing? And I think so many of these conversations, like how they've played out is I would say 50% of them my wife and I are in agreement and it's easy. And then there's another 50% where I'm like, we both want and believe different things about what should be done. And I think where I find myself less certain is like do those things, like what the things I just mentioned, like the driver's license stuff, social media, braces, like do those things need me to like say, nope, I'm going to be the one to make this decision? Or can there be some middle ground where like we both honor each other and find a way to make it to where one of us isn't the winner and does that make, like, I think that's where some of those
It makes total
practical,
sense.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know, maybe my wife and I are just unique where we haven't had the like huge disagreements on these things that are critical. But I think that's one of those places I just feel less and less certain of, like, what does that look like when the rubber actually meets the road, right?
So how do you guys navigate that? Because I mean, that's what this podcast is all about, is building healthy relationships and giving healthy tools. And so, as a couple, how do you guys navigate that when you do have, because you said about what, like 50% of things you guys have completely different
Yeah.
ideologies on. So how do you
Yep.
navigate that?
Yep. So so here's a real example, Cameron, and I'm sure my family's going to be okay with this. My 16-year-old got a speeding ticket like 2 months after he got his driver's license. And in Iowa, you can start driving at 14 and a half and you get your license at 16. So he got a speeding ticket. He was going pretty fast. And I came home and the speeding ticket is on the counter. He's at work and the speeding ticket's on the counter, and I like lose my mind, right? I'm ramped up to 11. I'm not paying, like, he can pay for it. He's got a job. I'm not worried about who's going to pay for it. He doesn't lose his license. Like, it's a kind of a minimal thing, but I'm gone emotionally, right? Nobody's home but me, and I'm freaking out. I'm ready to like bust some heads, Cameron. And my wife is a little more chill, and she's a little more laid back, and she's a little more able to say, look, in 6 months, is this going to be a thing? No, it's not going to be a thing. It's been 6 months. It's not a thing. It's not going to keep him from getting a job. But my emotional response is like, this is step one to deviancy. Like, this is step one to a life of crime.
Yeah.
And so I want to approach this from like a discipline. Like, we have to like show this is bad, and we have to like see some remorse and all this kind of stuff. I'm probably a little heavier than my wife is. At least there's one kid that I'm going to go heavier on. There's one kid my wife is going to go heavy.
Yep.
I think that's
Yep.
probably
Yep.
every parent.
Same.
So we had to come together, and like, what's most important to us is our relationship as a couple. Like, that's first. No matter what we do with the speeding ticket thing, like, our relationship is more important than who gets to dictate punishment. And our relationship with our kid is more important than who gets to dictate punishment. So I think a younger version of me probably would have said, when my wife's like, hey, let's just chill a little bit. Let's choose how we approach this. Let's try to learn from it instead of trying to punish. Like, we're in that stage of life where we're trying to be cheerleaders and directors. So I think like that was just one of those real times. Like, I lightened up a little bit, got a little heavier, right? And we just had to get really clear. Like, at the end of the day, we want our kid to keep putting these speeding tickets on the counter instead of throwing it in the garbage,
Right.
or like paying it and hiding it. I think that's probably a silly example, but we had to kind of find that middle ground. And I like, lightening up for me is not easy. Like, now I fear, like, well, I lightened up. Now he's not going to get the message. And it's hard for her to get a little heavier because I think she's nervous of like, are we going to drive a wedge between us and our teenager? So I think that was a recent real time, like, we're neither one going to feel great about this. And together we feel great. Like, does that make sense? Like, individually, we don't love it. Yeah. Yeah.
But things
there
still
has
have to happen. And I
things still
love
have to
you
happen.
being compromised though, and like realize, and going back to that self-awareness piece of, okay, I need to ramp up a little bit, and I need to, calm down a little bit. And then, we attack this together versus attacking each other or attacking him or what have you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I have, it makes me laugh that you said that you guys are going to have like one kid that you go a little heavier on and a kid that you don't like. And I saw something the other day, and I feel like this is so true, but I said that, with my with my oldest, I expect him to like be kind to his siblings and wake up every morning and be a leader and be a, get good grades and, all of these things. And then, my second born comes along and it's like, just don't be a jerk today. Just don't be a jerk.
Yes.
That's my only request. And so that's kind of our home too, that, the oldest is 16 and thank God he drives like a 92-year-old man that's out for a Sunday stroll. And I'm
Oh,
like, we gotta
Cameron.
get places today. Like, could we go a little faster?
I'm
So
so jealous.
well, don't be, because that second one's coming and that second one's going to be like, we joke, like his dad and I joke of like, listen, we gotta go hard because this child is either going to be the leader of a gang in prison or the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Like, there is no middle ground with this one.
Huh?
So
Huh?
he is completely different than his brother is. So
I love
his
that.
brother's like too kind and compassionate for this world, and then I got the second one that's like throwing grenades and being like, "Peace out, Girl Scout," like that, whatever. So
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
get it completely.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but going back to this, it's interesting. And I love that you gave a real life example where you struggled, because this was also rooted. And I think this happens so frequently. I mean, even with myself, and people look at us as like, well, you're the coaches. You have to have it all figured out. I don't think anybody has it all figured out. I'm just a
No.
coach because I've made more mistakes than you have. Like, I'm 10 steps ahead of you, but
Yeah.
still learning myself. And so,
Yeah.
with that, like going back to that fear piece and that shame that fear is a real emotion, and it is very much something that we are biochemically addicted to making as human beings. And so, going through and you saying the speeding ticket is, my fear is this is like one step towards deviancy. That's a real thing. And I don't think we normalize that enough. And I don't think that we find the tools enough because we don't have the self-awareness to say, oh, this is rooted in fear. What
Yeah.
am I afraid of? I am afraid
Yeah.
of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And what's the truth behind that?
Yep. Yep. I think, I mean, I like how you talk about normalizing these conversations. I am a huge proponent. Like, I think emotions are hugely important and have a place and need to be received. Like, I mean, this is internal family systems theory. We do this. Emotions are hugely important, and like emotions can control us, right? That fear can control us, and being able to stop and say, like, what's actually going on, like what's actually true, is just a huge part of that. And I think maybe there's a connection there to self-awareness to say, here's what I do and here's when I need to do that. But I think so often we just allow that to say, oh, I feel that fear. It must be right. Like in the moment, it's just hard to get out of it. It just feels real.
Yeah. Well, and going back to childhood, it's because we're not taught to, we're not taught, but I also think that it's because we didn't have the information that we had, 20, 30 years ago, 40
Mm-hmm.
years ago, we were being raised, that we have now. So our parents didn't realize that, like, you don't learn to truly regulate your emotions until you're
Yeah.
almost 10.
Yeah.
And so, when your mom's losing it because you did something bad, or your dad's losing it because you got a speeding ticket, how, you're borrowing their energy in order to regulate yourself. And then we become adults and we're trying to regulate ourselves while also trying to help our child learn how to regulate.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so it's a cycle. It's
It is a
a
cycle.
process.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We like to think about those things as like, I don't know, Newton's whatever law, an object in motion remains in motion
Oh,
until
yeah.
it's acted upon. I think the same is true with those kind of habits and behaviors. Like they will just continue to be normal, continue to be autopilot, continue to be default until they're acted upon from an outside source, which is you and I, or an outside coach that can hold up a mirror, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been asked so many times, and I'd love to hear your theory on this as well as a coach, because I've been asked so many times, like, how are you so good at this? How can you see into my relationship and see, like, okay, this is what's going on and this is what's going on? And it's because I'm not emotionally attached to that
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
When we get emotionally attached to something, like everything seems 100 times worse or bigger or harder or what have you. And that's not necessarily the case. Like a lot of times it's so simple. It's so simple. It's not easy, but it's simple for someone like you and I to come in and say, oh, yeah, this is what I see. And this is, this is the quick fix. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you're in the thick of it, it feels like a very big deal.
100%. I mean, I like the way you said simple, not easy.
Hmm.
I'll be careful how I say this, but there's a lot of nuance and complexity in people's situations. And I think there's just a lot of commonalities in what we all face. Like I have 4 or 5 questions that I go to all the time to ask people, and they fit most every person. Right. And I think it can look like I'm reading their mail. But
Would you mind sharing some of those?
yeah, I mean, one question I ask all the time is like I'll just ask why do you think that's so?
Mm.
Or I'll think like, or I'll ask, when did that begin? I think then people kind of think like, oh, well, how do you know this goes back? Well, it all goes back. Like
It all goes back.
all of our stuff goes back. Those are like go-to questions for me. And there's nuance and there's complexities in where it goes back to, but it all goes like all of us go back to our first formation somehow, some way. So yeah, I mean, not easy, but not being tied up in the emotions. I think you're spot on. Like I don't have anything like blocking my view from reality or from for those questions. Whereas if I'm like, this is why I have a coach, because there are times when I can't see, what is it, the forest for the trees? Is that how
Yeah.
that saying
Yeah.
goes?
Yeah.
And I just need somebody that can see it when I
Same.
can't. Yeah,
Yeah. I have an incredible coach. I absolutely adore her. And she talks all the time about um, what controls your emotions will control you.
love
So
that.
if you're not in control of your emotions, you're going to be controlled by your emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get lost. So often we get so lost. And that's, yeah, seeing the forest for the trees. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think here's how I would frame that working with individuals and leaders is I think more than we understand or more than they understand boils down to fear. We already said this, right? Like I think that's the common thread where I would say um, there's just not a ton of difference, because if we boil it down, it's a fear or a threat, right? The threat that I'm going to be seen as dumb, or the threat that I'm going to be embarrassed, or the threat that I'm going to be found out, whatever it is. So I think, yeah, if I was going to answer that question, I'd say, yeah, I don't think there's a lot different, like at the boiled down spot. Like if you boil it down enough, there's going to be fear and like a mitigation of threat.
Hmm. Okay. Do you find that that's more so in entrepreneurs than in like somebody with a W-2 job, for example?
That's a good question. Um, I'd say it's just different. I'd say
Okay.
it's just different. I mean, what we see in entrepreneurs, even like nonprofit, we end up with a lot of nonprofit leaders just because of our backgrounds. And I think what we see with them, like there's a much closer connection to like their identity and self-worth. Like the fear that I'm not a good leader, or fear that I'm going to fail at this, or fear that I'm not a good entrepreneur, or whatever it is. Um, I think it's different with a W-2 person. I think the fear is like, I'm gonna not be able to provide for my family because I'm gonna get fired because I got found out.
Real fear.
It is a real fear, yeah. And honestly, like I do want to say, like I don't think all these fears are worth dismissing. I think sometimes fear is actually trying to tell us something. I do have clients that need to work on things, right? Like that fear is sometimes trying to tell us, hey, you probably do actually need to work on this thing. But I think there is a nuanced difference between this identity piece and this I'm going to not be able, I'm going to lose my job. Like that sort of threat feels different. I even think there's a threat, like we see some entrepreneurs in like a group setting and like trying to measure up feels different than like trying to get accolades of a supervisor. Like those are similar, but there's some nuanced difference to those.
So as a former pastor, how often does faith come into play for overcoming that fear?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like building a philosophy of coaching, my partner and I, there's two of us, we're both ordained ministers still. So like obviously we can't separate our coaching philosophy from our own kind of faith traditions. So it plays into every coaching session we do. I think whether we explicitly invite people into that, we don't necessarily explicitly bring our faith into that or ask people about their faith. We do have some people that know us that will say, or they'll see on the website like, "Oh, you're an ordained minister. Can you like help? Can you keep faith in these conversations?" They'll kind of help us understand how to do that. But yeah, I just don't think we can't separate it as coaches, even when we're not explicitly, like when I ask somebody, what's the threat? We'll use that question a lot. Like, okay, so you're afraid of being found out. Well, what's the threat? Or you're afraid of speaking up in this meeting. Well, what's the threat? Like, what happens if you do? I think we ask that question. And it's grounded in this, like, you are an image bearer of God.
Yeah.
Like you are enough, you know? And I feel like we can help people see that without explicitly saying you are an image bearer of God. If somebody doesn't share our same faith
Same
background,
thing. Yeah.
the teaching, the practical coaching piece, I think is valuable even without that foundation that we carry into all those settings.
Okay. What is your thought on, because one of the things that you're really big on is that most leaders aren't thriving, they're just surviving. So
Yeah,
what's missing?
yeah, that was a good question. I think there's a couple things. I think this sort of hustle culture that we live in is really bad for people. Um, don't hear me say like I think hard work is good. I don't think working hard and being entrepreneurial. I don't think that's bad. I think that's different than hustle culture.
For sure.
I think the hustle culture just perpetuates like I blow past my boundary. I focus on one thing and I do it till I can't do it anymore. I used to work for a guy who would say, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." Like that's
Oh, yeah, I've
hustle culture,
heard
right?
that frequently. Yeah.
I think that's part of what's missing is we buy into this like I have to blow past my boundaries and burn myself out today instead
Yeah.
of thinking about the long game.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about sustainable leadership, and I think that sustainable leadership is part of what's missing. We culturally and societally reward short term gains, short term work without thinking about sustainability and longevity. And I think we hope to change that a little bit. I think it is changing a little bit. Culturally speaking, it changes a little bit, but there's still just this prominent like hustle grind right now at all costs without thinking about long term.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the original question that we asked about who do you wanna be? We're
Yeah,
just repeating things that
yeah,
parents said and their parents said and their parents said instead of
yeah,
asking what's really good for us? What
yeah,
works for our culture? What works for our society? What works
yeah,
for our children?
yeah,
What works for me? You know?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we work with a lot of people on is to get crystal clear on who and how they want to be, right? Who do you want to be? How you want to be? I think that sort of survival, not thriving. I think survival is a misalignment of who and how we want to be with the work that we do. I know a lot of people that work a lot of hours and give a lot of energy and effort and never burn out because I think burnout is tied to misalignment, not energy and
Sure.
effort. So
100%.
so I think the thriving and surviving conversation has to include a conversation about alignment as well.
Yeah, that's a really big one. Do you work a lot with, like, what someone's purpose is? Like, do you talk a lot about purpose?
I would say a little bit. I think we think about it like this. That do you know Frederick Buechner? Do you know this name?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was a theologian. He would say it like this: that vocation. I'm going to butcher it, but vocation is where the world's deepest need and our heart's greatest desires meet. And I think you could insert purpose into vocation. Like
Yeah.
vocation, not so much like he wouldn't have thought that as like a 9 to 5. Vocation meaning like what we give our life to. So we do think about it in that sense to say like what what is the heart's greatest desire and where do you see the world's greatest need, and how do you draw them closer, right? Like if there's a gap between them, how do you bring them closer? And in the work world that gets really hard. like not everybody can do what you and I did, right? Not everybody can like, well, this is misaligned, so I'm going to like step into this new thing. The reality is most people we work with have to figure out how to find alignment and purpose, even when like the actual career might be misaligned today. Um, that's just the nature of 2026, So I think we think about purpose like that to say, how do we bring your heart's desire and the world's greatest need closer together, even if your like title or career can't do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's very similar to how I think about purpose as well. Um, I've actually worked with a company called the Purpose Company, and yeah, they're you do this assessment and it is wildly accurate, like freakishly accurate. And the way that they define it is, and again, I'm going to butcher it too, but basically it's bringing how you bring the best of who you are to serve the world.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's when you think about that, like what is your best? What is, I mean, this is what you help people figure out is and what I help people figure out is what is your best? What does that even look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, and
Yeah.
and I think that best changes, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I think this is even
Throughout
like
the
a
seasons
season
for
of
sure.
life thing, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I like to think about our lives having chapters, right? It's a life with chapters, and every chapter is probably going to have a different best. A season with two toddlers, my best looked very different than
Very
what it
different.
looks like with two teenagers. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think we believe, like, we use the word authenticity uh, to mean that authenticity is when I'm showing up most closely aligned with who and how I want to be. Um, uh, I think that we would also then, to use your language, like, we are most authentic when we are most our true or our best self. I mean, theologically, like what we would say, what my partner and I would say is like we are most ourselves when we're most united with Christ. Uh, but again, I don't know that that's exclusive to people that would answer it quite like that. But I think there is something to be said about like getting clear on that and having some agency to show up that way.
Absolutely. I think spirituality plays a huge part in your alignment and in who you are and in your authenticity and how you show up in the world and whether it's to serve
Yeah,
others or whether it's to serve yourself.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
huge part.
yeah, for sure.
Talk about the hollow success. What does that look like for people? How do you know if you're in that season? How, as we wrap up here, how can they find you to get out of that?
Yeah, yeah. Hollow success looks like accolades on paper and going home at the end of the day and metaphorically wanting to kick the dog.
Yeah.
It's metaphorically showing up at work with a smile, externally, internally. You're just dreading walking in. I was on a call with somebody just this morning on a different podcast who talked about like, I walked into work every morning and I was grumpy every day, but nobody would ever know it, right? That's hollow success. It's having the office, it's having the nameplate on the door, it's having the titles, whatever it is, the salary, but at the end of the day, going home exhausted and tired. Um, Again, misaligned with who and how
Yeah.
we want to be. I mean, this is pretty culturally normal, right? Like, this is sort of the waters we swim in, is to chase the name on the door, chase the title, chase the salary, all that kind of stuff. And we would just say that if we're gonna go home and metaphorically kick the dog, that's hollow success. That all parts of us were created for wholeness, even the part of us when we go home and have to like live with how we went through our day. Um, I think one of the easiest places where we start with people to say, "Is this happening?" is we ask people to find moments, notice moments throughout their day where they feel regret or remorse, and those are like big words, probably stronger than I want, but those moments where we leave a meeting and we're like, man, why did I say that, or why didn't I say that, or
Mm,
why did it go like that, or I don't like how that went, or we have a hard conversation with a peer or a family member, and we get done and we say, "Oh, I left something on the table," or "I I just don't like how I lashed out," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those moments of regret and remorse probably indicate some level of misalignment. Uh, Maybe some hollow success, maybe not, but it certainly will sort of indicate a place where we are misaligned with our intentions and our desire to be and show up a certain way.
It's incredible. And I don't think it's talked about enough because as you were saying, this is just kind of our culture. This is how we show up. We go to a job and 10 years ago, that's exactly where I was. I changed my
Same.
major 11 times in college because I was like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so, then my dad called one day and said, listen, sis, you got two brothers coming up right behind you. They're going to college too. Not like he paid for my college, so I don't really know why he cared. But anyway, I I just chose elementary education because I was like, that's what I got the most credits in. Like, that's what I'll do. And as a teacher, I was great. I was a great teacher. I was
Yeah.
so good at it.
Yeah.
But I cried all the way to school. I cried all the way home. And that's where that misalignment came into play. And now, like, I will work 14 hours a day because I don't even consider it work. Like, it's just, this is my fun and this is what I'm interested in. And it's just a wildly different life now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
I want for people. I want people to, because when you are, like, as we were talking about purpose, when you are bringing your best self to serve others, life looks and feels so different.
Yeah. 100%.
So different.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard of the spoon theory?
No. Tell me about it.
So the spoon theory is that this was developed by this lady that had a chronic illness. And basically she said that, like, everybody in the world wakes up in the morning with 10 spoons. And for some people with a chronic illness, it may take like 7 spoons just to get out of bed. Whereas someone who doesn't have a chronic illness, it might take like no spoons to get out of bed or 1 spoon to get out of bed. Or like your job may be taking away 5 spoons of your day. And then your kids, takes 2 spoons and the dog takes a spoon and your wife takes a spoon, like all of these things. At the end of the day, how many spoons do you have left? Or how many spoons do you have by like 3 p.m.?
Yeah.
And I think looking back, so the way that this is a tool that I give couples as well, is to like walk in, and if you're both drained, if you're both running on empty and it's 5 p.m. and you've still got soccer practice and dinner to make and the house is a disaster and you've still got homework to do and all the things,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
many spoons do you have left? Like, you're going to need 4 or 5 just to get all of that done. But
Yeah.
if neither of you have 4 or 5 and one's like, I'm at 2 spoons and the other one's like, well, I'm at 1, that's not a lot to get everything done, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what do we take out in order to get that done? The problem though is, like, as we're talking about what you're discussing with this hollow success, is that if your job is draining, if you're out of your spoons by the time you come home and you don't have anything else
Yeah.
giving you spoons left,
Yeah.
how do you even, like, that's the survival.
Yeah.
You're surviving and not even surviving. Like, you're just barely making it through.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
not a life to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that's what,
agree. Yeah.
yeah,
It is. I mean, I love I've never heard of that, the spoon theory. I like it a lot. I think yeah, we're just living in a time where there's this myth of like, it doesn't matter if I'm out of spoons, I have to do it. My kids have to get a scholarship. My house has to be perfect. My neighbors have to see my lawn mowed. Like, we just live in this time. And again, I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's good coaches or both, but yeah, that's not a sustainable, not a sustainable way to live. Yeah.
I look back even 20 years ago and I totally would have been the person, like, even when Mason was little, like when he's 16 now, but when he was little, I was the mom that was like, no, you have to have a bath every night. And
Mm,
I have to have a perfect plated dinner by 6
uh-huh.
o'clock. My house has to be perfect. And now I look around and I'm like, thank God that girl doesn't live anywhere close to me anymore because we would be dead. at this point.
Yep.
5-year-old hasn't had a bath in 2 days. Cool. Like, I'll make sure we have it tonight, but like, whatever. I
Yep.
just cleaned his room. And the only reason I cleaned his room is because I stepped on a Lego, and I was like,
Yep.
okay, either I lose my foot or we clean this room. Thing. So,
this is what you just described was the same for us. I mean, I think for us as a family, that there was this real question of like, why? The real question of like, why does my kid's room have to be perfect? And why am I yelling at my kid to clean their room? Like, does that need to be where I'm going to yell at is this the hill I'm going to die on and potentially like create a rift over? I think there's so many of those opportunities that we have every day to say why. I mean, my wife and I, our motto in parenting is we're just trying to suck a little less every day.
Like, I love that. That's actually what my coach says too. My coach says that every morning when you wake up, you have to ask, okay, where do I currently suck? And then work on that. Like,
suck a little less every day. Yep.
Yeah. I used to be a yeller too. And it's funny because now my oldest will look at me and he's like, that you're not going to yell about that? That's okay. And
that's
I'm like,
a win.
Why am I?
Yeah.
Why it didn't work? It didn't do anything. It's not like you learned a lesson from it. So like, it just raised my blood pressure and made me feel like crap for 2 hours afterwards. So what
a win, Kameran.
You're gonna learn it or you're not. Like whatever. So
what a win.
I'll give you the information one time, and if you choose to learn the lesson from that information, fine. If not, you're going to go out into the world and the world's going to kick you in the face with a golf shoe and you'll learn it then. So
natural consequences.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, how do we just suck a little less every day? I love it. That's a perfect way to put that for sure. Okay. As we wrap up, talk a little bit about this book, Live Fully, Lead Authentically.
Yep. So the book really captures our coaching philosophy. We have some frameworks in there, some like tangible, like put your hands on kind of frameworks to help people become more self-aware, become a little more aware of who they are and how they're showing up. But again, really, we just wanted to capture our heart for what we do, and like let people see it. We believe that it's beneficial to the world. Maybe not so much we don't know that we're beneficial for the world, but our philosophy feels like it's got fruit to give. So we wanted it to be a tool that we could say, hey, check this out, give it a try. If there's something here, we'd love to go a little deeper into the frameworks with people. But at the very least, hey, let's show the world the frameworks that we think have shaped us and framed our growth, and share that with the world.
Awesome. Can we get it on Amazon? Is it on Audible?
I'm a really good marketer, Kameran. Yes, Amazon, Target, our website, anywhere you buy books, you can get the book. You can get it print or digital. No Audible yet, though. No audiobooks.
Okay.
But print or Kindle or digital. I don't know a lot about digital. But yes, print anywhere you buy books, you can get it.
Awesome. Love that. Okay, last question for you.
Boy.
Who do you want to be?
Ooh, I know this because I think about this a lot.
Okay.
I think about the eulogy a lot, right? Like, which is kind of morbid, but I want to be someone who cares deeply for people. I want to care deeply for the people that are around me, and I want to be I want my family to see me, or the people closest to me, as someone who sought to be faithful in the things that I do. Period.
Love that. Absolutely incredible. Kurt, thank you so much. If you are struggling with hollow success or not knowing who you are or who you want to be, and you realize that there is a lack of that self-awareness, definitely reach out to Kurt and his best friend that is a coach with him. And if you are listening and you have enjoyed this episode, please share it, save it, send it to your socials and share it with your socials. Tag myself at married.and.connected. Kurt, do you have socials?
I do. Yep. Kurt Busch 1 on Instagram, Kurt Busch on Facebook, and then on LinkedIn, just Kurt Busch. And then some numbers, but they'll find me.
Yeah. Make sure you tag Kurt as well. And until next week, stay married and connected. We've all seen it. The messy social media messages, the public tea spilling, and the absolute embarrassment of finding out that your life is a lie through a Facebook post or an Instagram message that your spouse thought was hidden. What if it didn't have to be like that, though? What if you could find out before their affair got too deep? Statistics show that over 20% of marriages deal with infidelity, and most affairs last for years because they thrive in the dark. It's time to turn the lights on. Verified.com is the world's first searchable relationship registry. It's not just an app, it's a digital boundary for your marriage. When you register your spouse on Verified, you are claiming your relationship on a global scale, whether you're talking, you're dating, or you're married. If another man or woman is being told your spouse is single or divorced and they search for your spouse on the registry, they find you instead. Now, here's the game changer. Verified allows you to speak one-on-one and directly with that other person. No gaslighting from your spouse. No he said, she said. No, oh my God, you went through my phone. How could you betray my trust like that? And zero social media drama. Just the truth, person to person, before things go too far. Don't wait for that gut feeling to become a nightmare. Because even if you think your spouse would never, there's an even better chance that you just never know. Register your spouse today using the link in the show notes and lock in your legacy to protect your peace. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional counseling or therapy. Every couple story is unique, so take what's helpful and leave the rest. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that neither I, Kameran Alareqi, Married and Connected, or Recognizing Potential Coaching are responsible for any outcomes related to what you apply from this show, especially if you are not a client of mine.